Once upon a time, in a quiet town just outside the bustling city of St. Elia, there lived a wealthy man named Victor Hale, known across the land for his extravagant horse farm. His stables were filled with the finest horses, bred for one purpose, to race and win. At the top of his prize collection was a majestic mare named Azure, whose grace and speed had made Victor a fortune. She was more than a champion. She was his pride. But fate can be cruel. One day, during a routine training jump, Azure misstepped. A low-hanging branch pierced her eye, and she fell hard onto the dirt track. Her leg snapped beneath her, and her cries echoed to the fields like thunder. Victor watched from afar, face unreadable, but inside, he knew it was over. To him, a broken horse meant a broken dream. Weeks passed, and the vet confirmed what Victor feared. Azure could never race again. Worse still, she was pregnant. To Victor, that changed everything. He stormed into the barn, fury in his eyes, and lashed out at the helpless mare. Kicks, punches, screams, all because she was no longer useful to him. The stable manager, Rosette, stepped in and stopped the madness. The next morning, over breakfast, Victor coldly ordered, "Get rid of her." No emotion, no hesitation. Rosette tried to protest, but Victor silenced him with a glare. Azure was taken away in an old truck, left in the middle of a dry desert, with only a few bales of hay and a bucket of water. But not everyone had turned their back on her. Iris, Victor's daughter, had long grown disillusioned with her father's ruthless ways. She followed Rosette in secret and found Azure barely alive, lying in the sand, exhausted and defeated. Tears welled up in Iris' eyes as she knelt beside the mare. "I'm so sorry," she whispered, hugging Azure tightly. "You're not useless. You're not alone anymore. I'll take care of you." She loaded Azure into her pickup truck, carefully driving her to a quiet farmhouse far from the noise of the city. There, she called the best vet she knew, Dr. Lang, and reached out to an old horse trainer, John, who had once worked for her father but quit over ethical concerns. Days turned into weeks. Azure was weak, malnourished, and in pain, but Iris stayed by her side. Every wound, every labored breath, tested her patience and strengthened her resolve. Then one night, under the light of the full moon, something miraculous happened. Azure went into labor. The night was tense, filled with moans and gasps. John and Iris worked tirelessly, hands trembling, sweat pouring down their faces. And then a soft whinny broke the silence. A foal, healthy, alive. Tears streamed down Iris' face as she held the newborn close. It was more than survival. It was hope. Months passed. With love, patience, and unwavering care, both Azure and her foal grew stronger. Her injured leg healed enough, and though her eye never recovered, she moved with renewed strength and spirit. One evening, while brushing Azure's coat under the shade of an apple tree, Iris looked into the mare's tired eyes. "You've already beaten the odds," she murmured. "Now let's show my father what true strength looks like." She decided to enter the spring grand race, the very event where Victor had lost everything chasing glory. Training wasn't easy. Some days, Azure resisted, confused and scared. Other days, she stumbled, her past injuries reminding them both how fragile victory could be. But slowly, trust grew. Understanding deepened. They became a team, not master and animal, but partners. And when the big day finally arrived, the crowd buzzed with excitement. Iris, dressed simply but with fire in her heart, mounted Azure. The starter's whistle blew. Hooves pounded the earth. The wind whipped past her face. Azure surged forward, faster than anyone expected. The other racers pushed hard, but Iris and Azure danced through turns, leaped over hurdles, and powered to the final stretch. And then they crossed the finish line. First place. The crowd roared. Tears spilled from Iris' eyes as she leaned down, whispering into Azure's ear, "We did it." News of the win reached Victor. He sat alone in his dimly lit study, surrounded by failed contracts and unpaid debts. His empire had crumbled after one reckless bet on a dying horse. When he heard that Iris had won with his discarded mare, the one he had abandoned, something inside him cracked. He wept, for the first time in years. He cried, not for money lost, but for love wasted, Later that evening, Iris returned home, holding the prize check, enough to save everything. Victor opened the door, and for the first time, he didn't talk about horses or money. He hugged her. "Forgive me," he said, voice shaking. And she did. Together, they started something new, a sanctuary for unwanted horses. Not for racing, not for profit, but for healing. Every sunrise brought new hope. Every sunset painted gratitude across the sky. Azure, now a symbol of resilience, stood proudly among the herd, not as a racer, but as a legend. Moral lesson: true worth is not measured by strength or success, but by compassion, courage, and the will to never give up. Call to action. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who needs a reminder that even in our darkest moments, hope can still find a way.